Hey, what's going on, everybody? Commander Crane here, and we are back with another Pioneer deck tech. And today we're going to be talking about $20 mono green Merfolk. I'm very excited to bring this ultra budget list to you. So, as always, before we hop into the video, let me know in the comments section below what you think about the list at the end of the video. Is there any cards that I should have included? As well as if you have any suggestions for upcoming videos, whether or not they're budget, non-budget, Pioneer, modern, standard, just let me know in the comment section below. So, all right, $20 mono green Merfolk. So I've done quite a few of these $20 decks thus far on the channel, really too many to count for the most part, and I got to thinking, like, what other decks could I do that would be like a solid aggro deck? And I got to thinking, I was looking at some of the Merfolk the other day, and I'm like, we could do a really cool mono green Merfolk deck. Most of the time Merfolk decks, they're predominantly blue, which makes sense because they have all the cool lords and things like that, but I was like, for $20 we could build a sweet mono green Merfolk deck, and this list is very, very cool. So let's go ahead and hop into it here. So our one drops that we're playing 4 Sonode Scout and 4 Cumanus Speaker, both fantastic one drops. Sonode Scout, obviously 1/1 for 1 when it enters, it explores. It's really, really good. I love playing Sonode Scout. I play it in my non-budget Merfolk deck, and it's very, very strong. Cumanus Speaker is also pretty solid. What's great is, yeah, we're not playing any islands, but if we have another Merfolk, it gets +1/+1. So it's a 2/2 for 1, extremely good rate. Definitely a big fan of Cumanus Speaker. Then we're also playing 4 Hardened Scales. It's easily the most expensive card in the deck by far, just because it sees play in a lot of different formats. If one or more +1/+1 counters will be placed on a creature control, it gets that many +1. So that means when we explore and it gets a 1/1 counter, it gets 2 +1/+1 counters. And if we have 2 Hardened Scales, then it gets 3 +1/+1 counters. So Hardened Scales is easily the best one drop in the entire deck. If it's in your opening hand, you got a couple lands, most of the time you're going to want to keep the hand. So definitely a big fan of Hardened Scales in general. Next slide here is our powerful 2-drops. Jadelight Spelunker technically is a 1-drop, but you're never really going to play it as a 1-drop. 1/1 for green X. When it enters the battlefield, it explores X times, which is just extremely good. So big fan of Jadelight Spelunker. Late game, we've got like 4 or 5 mana even. Boom. Pour it all into Jadelight Spelunker, explore a bunch of times. Oh yeah, we've got Hardened Scales, so we're going to get a bunch of counters with it. It's just extremely strong. So definitely a big fan of Jadelight Spelunker. Merfolk Branchwalker, the original cheap Explore Merfolk, 2/1 for 2. When it enters, it explores. Extremely good rate and great for a budget deck as well. Deeproot Elite, a card that most people really have never even heard of. It's a very, very strong card, though. 1/1 for 2, whenever another Merfolk enters the battlefield under your control, put a +1/+1 counter on target Merfolk you control. You can put it on Deeproot Elite, make it really, really big. You can put it on your other creatures, so you can kind of go wide. Deeproot Elite is just a very, very cool card. It kind of reminds me of Metallic Mimic in a way, except you get to pick where the 1/1 counter goes, and the best part, it's 25 cents approximately US dollars. Card is super duper cheap. Definitely a big fan of Deeproot Elite in general. So next slide here is our 3 mana explore creatures. I would say the best creatures in the deck for the most part. Jadelight Ranger, always been a huge fan of this card. When it enters, you explore twice. Extremely good once again with Hardened Scales because it gets additional counters, so it's just really, really good. And then the new Jadelight Ranger, essentially Sentinel of the Nameless City. When it enters battlefield or attacks, create a map token. It's also a 3/4 for 3 with Vigilance. That's just an extremely good stat line for the most part. So definitely a big fan of both of these cards. It's pretty much the top end of our curve because that's where it pretty much stops, is at 3, and they're very, very strong. But we still have another Merfolk we have to talk about, and obviously we're going to need some protection spells for all of our Merfolk that we play, and this is our protection. We're playing 4 Swift Warden, which I'm assuming most people have not heard of this card. I always knew it existed, but I never really got to feature it in a deck. But I did get to play it today. 3/3 for 3 flash. When it enters the battlefield, target Merfolk you control gains hexproof until end of turn. Obviously just a really sweet Merfolk. Worst case scenario, it's a 3/3 for 3 with flash. Best case scenario is opponent goes to remove one of our creatures and we flash it in and we protect our creature. So definitely a big fan of Swift Warden in general. And then we're also playing Snakeskin Veil for 2 reasons. One, it's a fantastic card. It's approximately about a quarter. But the other good part is it puts a +1/+1 counter on a creature we control. So what's great is it works well with Hardened Scales. That's pretty much why we're playing the Snakeskin Veil. So protection spell with synergy in our deck, sign me up. Definitely a big fan of Snakeskin Vale in general. So that's our entire main board, except for our lands and our sideboarding plan, as well as some upgrade options, so don't go anywhere. Our lands are really simple. We're playing 4 Hashp Oasis and 16 Forest. Nothing too crazy. Obviously, we're playing, a $20 deck, so we can't play any crazy expensive cards or lands, but Hashp Oasis is still really good. Yeah, sometimes we're going to take a little bit of damage from the Hashp Oasis, but being able to give a creature +3/+3 can really help end the game, so a huge fan of this card. And then Forest, what obviously hasn't been said about Forest in general, and as the special spicy basic land of the day, I decided to play the Rivals of Ixalan Forest just because I can see a ton of Merfolk living right in that area, especially right where that stream, kind of where that, I think it's a waterfall going there too. I could see a lot of Merfolk hanging around there. Just a really, really big fan of the artwork in general. And obviously a bunch of the cards from our deck are from Rivals of Ixalan in general. So that's why I decided to feature that very, very cool forest. So next thing we got to hop into here is our sideboard. It's pretty simple overall because obviously we have a $20 budget. We got to keep things cheap. Graveyard Hate, Tormod Script, and Soul Guide Lantern. They are the best options for us. Removal, which honestly kind of goes into Artifact Enchantment Hate. So as our main removal spell for the deck, I chose to play Tail Swipe just because it's an instant fight spell, which is just really, really good. We can play it on our turn or our opponent's turn, obviously, because it's an instant. But if you play it on your turn, the creature gets +1/+1, which can definitely matter. But for Artifact Enchantment Hate, I'm also playing Atraxas Fall. Atraxas Fall, 2 mana, destroy an artifact, enchantment, creature with flying, or a battle, which is pretty good. It's really, really flexible. I forgot to put this on here, but I also would play a card like Damping Sphere. Yes, Karn the Great Creator was banned, so mono green is not as strong, but it is still really, really good. So I highly recommend still playing a few Damping Spheres, especially for like the Lotus Field combo decks. It's obviously really, really good against them as well. So our last thing we got to talk about is our upgrade options. So upgrading this deck overall, obviously it's a $20 deck, so there's a lot of potential for upgrades. We're going to want to upgrade the utility lands. You're going to want to play cards like Mutavault. Lair of the Hydra is also really good. Boseiju, if you happen to have some Boseijus. Cavern of Souls. There's a lot of upgrading you can do with the lands, but not 100% necessary. If you happen to have some of those extra lands laying around, go ahead and throw them in the deck. But the main thing is, if you want to upgrade the deck fully, I would highly recommend going into Simic Merfolk, because obviously you get all the lords, you get the counter spells, you get all the sweet cards. If you still wanted to keep the deck mostly green based though, I would highly recommend just putting in the lords. You could put in Merfolk Mistbinder as well as Fedalian Hexcatcher, and then splash a little bit of blue if you want to mostly have the green Merfolk, just because it's really, really cool. I mean, like, the green Merfolk definitely don't get featured a lot, so it's kind of cool that this deck was able to feature them. And then the main thing is, if you're playing the Simic Merfolk, not including Cavern of Souls, you can easily keep the deck under $200, just because, again, you just need some of the dual lands, which some of them are a little pricey, but, you can play, like, Yavimaya Coast, you can even play, like, Unclaimed Territory or Secluded Courtyard to kind of keep the price down overall. But the deck can easily be under $200 once it's all said and done, which is very, very cool. So, all right, well, that takes us to the end of the video. I'd like to thank everybody for watching this very, very sweet budget deck. Let me know in the comment section below what you think about the list, and also let me know if you do end up playing this at your local F&M or against friends. Just let me know if you do end up building the deck. So, I'm Commander Crane. Thanks for watching this awesome deck tech, and I'll catch you in the next video.